Everyone should strive for homeownership, or should they? Hey honeybees, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, my name is Ciara and I do videos on finance and lifestyle. I'm a full-time mortgage loan officer and YouTuber, and I've helped hundreds of people to buy homes and build wealth. So I take everything I know and I share it with you in hopes you will build wealth also. I've seen a big push lately to normalize luxury living and apartment living. It's got a lot of people rethinking home ownership altogether. I just bought my first house after living in an apartment for many years, despite working as a mortgage loan officer for a good time before I decided to buy this house. I have perspective from both a lender and a buyer, and from someone who formerly lived in luxury apartment living. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to decide if buying or renting is right for you and for your needs. I'll also give you some practical tips which helped me decide if I wanted to become a homeowner and when. So if you're contemplating if you should continue to rent or if you actually need to buy, then you'll definitely want to stay tuned. Homeownership is the foundation of the American dream, but it may not be the best option for anyone at any given moment. I saw this post online and it really got me to thinking. Can we normalize the luxury apartment condo lifestyle? Everybody doesn't want a house. I don't want one anytime soon, but maybe in my 30s. I just want my city view, bougie, luxurious, modern spot. People be commenting, you might as well get a house with that rent, as if they're gonna pay it. That's your limiting belief, not mine. I'm not thinking about the price. Money's gonna come regardless. Let people do what makes them happy. I worked in the mortgage industry for many years before I decided to buy, which I know was probably pretty confusing to most people. And while I tout home ownership as a key wealth building tool, I also understand it's not the most viable option for everyone all the time. I fully believe in the benefits of renting. Renting, for example, helped me try out different areas and different styles of living. And I'm not gonna lie, I fully enjoyed all of my amenities, such as having a gym, pool, recreational area, a party house, an amazing view, 24/7 maintenance, and the list goes on. I also had 24/7 security, which I loved, and not to mention living in the lap of luxury apartment living, all for one monthly rent price. I also appreciate renting because it helped me to develop a sense of financial stability, and it helped me save while I was renting so that I could become a homeowner. But for me, once I started working from home, it became too small and too cramped for me, and to have personal space and office space, it just got too small. Now, owning a home, I have ample space for personal use and for work, and I'm building equity at the same time and thus building wealth. I also have the option to convert my house into an investment property, which I do plan to do in the very near future. So that will also help me build wealth and gain passive income. So once I was ready to buy a house, the choice was crystal clear for me, even in a pandemic and even in a volatile market. So here's some tips to help you decide what works best for you. Let's start with the pros and the cons. Okay, let's start with the pros. The first pro is that you have mobility and you have freedom to move around. If you know that you're not going to be in the same area for at least 5 years, it may be more beneficial to rent until you find somewhere you know that you want to stay more long term. And this is because the amount of costs associated with buying a house tends to break even around the 5-year mark. So if you're going to stay in your house less than 5 years, you may end up losing money. Another pro is that the landlord pays for maintenance. You aren't responsible for that. That is completely included in your rent. Renting also doesn't require closing costs. Whenever you buy a house, you are going to be required to pay what's called closing costs. Closing costs are the costs associated with getting a home loan. You also don't incur those extra expenses that come with maintaining a home. When you have a home, you do pay your mortgage, but within your mortgage, you also have your home insurance and you have your property taxes. This may or may not get escrowed at closing, but it is something that you're going to have to keep up with throughout the time you are in your house. No matter what, you're going to have property taxes every year, and you're going to have homeowners insurance. And that's not including if you have flood insurance, as well as maintenance and upkeep costs of the house. So for me, I have monthly fees for my security system, lawn mowing, pest control. It's just extra expenses that aren't all balled into one very convenient rent payment. Renting also allows you to live in a much more luxurious space. And I think a lot of millennials and Gen Zs rent for this exact reason. You want to live in a place that's modern and luxurious, and renting allows you to do that, whereas buying a home that is modern and luxurious may cost you more. Okay, so let's talk about the cons. Now, the first con is that you don't build equity, which may be one of the most important benefits of buying a house. You guys have seen that throughout the pandemic in the past couple years, home prices have risen greatly. So while home prices have risen, that's also increased people's equity exponentially. That's why you see so many people selling their houses now, because they want to take advantage of that equity. When you are renting, you do not get equity, meaning that when you move out your property, that money has not gone towards the purchase of, the property or towards any equity. The home actually tends to gain value, whereas if you rent, you're not gaining any value. You're simply just spending money for your monthly living expense. Renting also gives you limited ability to customize your space. One of the things I was so excited about when I moved into my house was being able to make updates, decorate it however I want, put holes in the wall, post things, do whatever I want, add in things, take out things. It's actually really nice, and that's one of the fun parts of being a homeowner. If you are an HGTV lover and you like home improvement projects, then renting may not be for you. If you are somebody who really likes making improvements and customizations, then you definitely want to lean towards becoming a homeowner. Another con of renting is that your rent can continually increase. And I think this is super important because we've seen this happen over the past 2 years. When you're renting, your rent can go up every year or however often your landlord decides to increase the rent. Whereas when you're a homeowner, you have a hedge against market volatility because your mortgage, for the most part, is going to stay the same for the life of a loan. Whereas renting, your rent can change just about every year. When your rent changes, it's usually an increase. So one of the things I'm so grateful for with home ownership is that my finances are more stable because I know how much my mortgage is per month, and I know that in the next year, it's not gonna go up. The last con is that when you're renting, you do not have stability in terms of living. Your landlord has complete control over the property. They could decide to sell the property tomorrow, use it for their own personal use, and you would have to vacate the property. So renting provides more instability when it comes to living versus home ownership. Okay, now let's talk about buying pros and cons. Now, the obvious pro of buying is that you build equity over time. Now, this equity can be leveraged to cover debt consolidation, upgrades, or the cash to put down on a new house or investment property. You also have unlimited freedom to customize your space. You may also get tax benefits for being a homeowner. Typically, most homeowners get a tax deduction or a tax credit for the interest paid on their mortgage when they do their yearly taxes. And in general, there's also just more stability. There's more stability in your mortgage versus renting, and we talked about that. Your mortgage is likely to stay the same or to stay pretty consistent, whereas your rent is more likely to change every year. Also, when you own your property, you can't kick you out of your property. You know that you have somewhere that's stable to stay, and you don't have to worry about being pushed out. So for the cons, one con is the closing costs. We talked about that. There's more closing costs associated with actually getting the property, and of course there's the application process and the loan process, which can be a lot more difficult for people than, say, just getting approved to rent and moving in. It's also a much longer process to get a home than it is to rent. Additionally, you are responsible physically and financially for maintenance and repairs on your property. So you're gonna incur extra maintenance fees that you would not with renting. So much like I mentioned where I have extra fees associated with security and with lawn and with pest control, things that I did not have while renting. Also, when it comes to emergencies and maintenance, I'm responsible for that. I actually got something stuck in my garbage disposal recently, and I'm so used to, when being in my apartment, just calling maintenance and they come and fix it. But this time I had to find a plumber and compare pricing, and it was just a lot more involved and it was a lot more expensive. So that's definitely a con of being a homeowner. Another con is that you have less flexibility to move. Much like the advantage for renting is that you can kind of move around and try out different locations and living styles. Once you own a home, you're more stable. It's harder to move. You're gonna have to sell your property, which is a longer process than just moving out of your apartment when you rent. And the last con is that you do get the tax benefits, but they are dependent upon ever-changing tax laws. Every time we get a new president, he usually changes the tax laws somehow. So while you do reap tax benefits as a homeowner, those benefits are always dependent upon what the tax laws are. Okay, so I've given you the pros and the cons of renting versus buying. Now let's talk about how to figure out what's best for you. Number one, decide how long you want to be in your area. The rule of thumb is that you should buy if you're gonna remain in the same area for at least 5 years. Now, if you're unsure, then it may be better for you to rent until you figure out where you want to be long-term. Renting allows you to explore many different areas without a major commitment. And renting can be good in this sense because trying out different areas will help you to know where you want to end up permanently. Next, crunch the numbers to find out what's going to be most economical for you in the short term and the long term. Now, to do this, you'll want to determine your financial goals. Do your financial goals involve becoming debt-free, or say you want to build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund? Maybe it includes investing in real estate. I would start with whatever your biggest financial goals are and then determine how buying a home or renting is going to fit into that. If you are really wanting to invest in real estate, then buying may be more beneficial because you can buy your home as your primary living residence, and then when you decide to upgrade, you can convert it to an investment property. That's a really easy way to start. But maybe you aren't going to be in a location for a long time and you really want to get rid of some debt first, then renting will possibly be better for you because you won't have to make that major commitment, and it gives you time and space to work more towards your financial goals. You'll also want to consider the expenses. Buying a home usually involves putting a significant amount of money down, as well as covering closing costs coupled with moving expenses, furniture, maintenance, supplies, etc. But this could actually be worth it if your mortgage is much lower than how much you're currently paying for rent. Also, take into account expenses outside of the mortgage, such as lawn care, pest control, security system, HOA, and more. You really don't want to be house poor. Just because you can afford a mortgage payment does not necessarily mean you can afford a home. And then you'll also want to consider what the market is doing. Consider if now is a good time to buy based on inventory rates, your financial position. Consider the market, consider the opportunity to build equity. Is this a good time to buy? Are home prices and home values predicted to get higher? You may want to buy now rather than rent because you may be able to reap your tax benefits as well as equity that you would have missed out on by renting. And lastly, when you're deciding to buy or rent, just make sure that you weigh the overall risk. That means managing risk for the chance that you buy a house and there's a downturn in the market. Hey guys, sorry, but my outro got wiped out somehow. So I just want to end this video and summarize basically that choosing to rent or to buy, there's not one correct way. It just depends on what your goals are and what you're able to do, what your flexibility is, and really it's a personal decision. I hope this video helped give you some insight on if buying or renting is for you. If it did, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be a part of the Honeybee fam and hit the bell button so you know when I upload. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you to the bank and back, and I'll see you in my next video. If you find this content helpful, be sure to join my Patreon where I'm offering more exclusive and bonus content on lifestyle and finance topics you already love, along with digital downloads, giveaways, live Q&A and coaching sessions, Discord access, patron shoutouts, and more. So whether you're a home buyer honeybee and want more one-on-one help, a business owner or loan officer wanting knowledge for success, or you just want to get to know me in a more personal way, you won't want to miss all the great content I have. So go to www.patreon.com/Ciara Elaine to join, and the link will be in the description.